And even within rabbis of the ancient times and even within Old Testament passages, what a tithe is not really clear what it involves. And I can't begin to tell you in the time I've been in ministry, the number of meetings I've sat in finance committee meetings and ad council meetings and other places where the argument about what the tithe is takes place. And I just kind of sit back and grin, you know? It's like, well, is it just my disposable income? Is it pre-tax or post-tax? What is the tithe? And I was part of a church for several years that taught the prosperity gospel. The more you give to God, the more you'll get back. And I saw people giving 30 and 40% of their income back to the church and living in horrible poverty, can't make ends meet. And when they'd wonder why, well, God's testing you to see if you're sincere. Well, you just don't have strong enough faith yet. So what is a tithe? We really don't know. Simple fact is, what it seems to be is a reflection of our gratitude toward God for all the gifts He's given us. And 10% can be a hard place to get to, right? We have so many other bills and so many other responsibilities that carving out that 10% of our income is hard. And somebody said to me, well, we all live on fixed incomes. Like, yeah, I do too. My paycheck is the same every month. We all live on, unless you own a business or are self-employed, we all are on fixed incomes. So it becomes a matter of what we value in life, what we value about our faith determines what we're willing to carve out. And I'm not saying 10% is right for everybody. When I first started giving before I was a pastor, it was whatever little loose change I had because I was really poor. But then when I became a pastor, I realized, you know what, I probably have to set an example here. And so I started trying to tithe. And at that time, we were still kind of living paycheck to paycheck quite a bit. And there were times when I wrote that tithe check for that Sunday where I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough gas to get where I needed to go the rest of the week. But you know what? Every week, it worked out. Every week, without fail. Something happened, and I made it. I was talking to another pastor in our conference who's serving 3 churches in retirement. He's been in ministry for 35 years, and his wife is an ordained elder as well. And he said, when we first got together, she tithed and I didn't, and she made me because it scared me to death. There were times I didn't think I was going to make ends meet, but he goes, you know what, Terry? Every time it worked out. What we give, whether it's 10% or 2% or 15%, is a measure of our trust and thanksgiving to God. But I got to tell you something. This passage I just read in Acts completely changes it. There's a new normal now. You sell everything you don't need and you give it to the church to use for the poor. How many are ready to do that? I'm kidding. None of us are going to do that, right? It'd be nice if we could. It'd be nice if we even had the courage to try to do that. But the system we live in has us trapped. We owe on our houses. We owe on our cars. We have massive insurance bills. The utilities keep going up, and we're stuck. But the early Christians were so concerned about living out Christ's teachings and living in a way that was antithetical to the Greek and Roman world that they sold. And these were the people from Jerusalem who were primarily Jewish converts who understood the promise of the promised land. And to sell your land that God had given you was a huge, huge deal. In fact, some rabbis would have told you that was the wrong thing to do because it was a gift to you from God. But these people cared so much more about the other people around them that they sold the properties and homes and whatever else that they didn't need to survive, and they gave it for the common good of the church and the people in Jerusalem. And one of the reasons I believe that the church grew so fast is because people went, wow, I want to be part of that. I want to be cared for. I want to care for others. I want to live that kind of life. Now, some people certainly grafted onto it and said, now I don't have to work. They'll take care of me. But because of the generosity and the love and fellowship of that early church, I believe it's one of the reasons why Christianity grew as fast as it did and while it is still here. Money rules our world. It rules our lives. It rules our businesses. I own 2 businesses. Trust me, it rules your business. John Wesley wrote a sermon in 1706 called On the Use of Money. When I was in seminary, there's an anthology of his sermons about this thick. When I was in seminary and during one 16-week semester, I had to outline all those sermons for the prof, which is kind of funny because the way John Wesley wrote his sermons, they were already outlined. So it's like point A, 1, 2, 3, 4, point B. It's pretty simple. But in his sermon on money, he said, what you have is a gift from God, and it's up to you to use it wisely. You should use it for yourself. You should use it for your community. But mostly you should use it for God. So he had 3 principles. And the first one was earn all you can. Now, by that, he didn't mean be a workaholic. Work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and never see your family. He meant do it in a way that you can make as much money as possible without doing damage to your spiritual self, your emotional self, or your physical self. And oh, by the way, while you're making all this money, make sure your family doesn't suffer for the lack of your presence there, and make sure you're not working for industries that harm people. This dude was pretty avant-garde for his day. He hated the medical profession because he thought they were just taking people's money with no real cures. He didn't want anybody working in the distilleries because that alcohol was ruining people's lives. So if you're going to make all the money you can, make sure it's in a worthwhile endeavor that doesn't hurt you, your family, or the people around you. And then once you've made all the money you can, then save all the money you can. And he didn't mean to squirrel it away in your 401k or into the stock market or into your life savings account. That was part of it. But part of saving all you could meant not living so high on the hog. Instead of having prime rib, have a hamburger. When your clothes got too small or too big for you, don't throw them away. Give them to somebody who can use them. He was the original recycler in Methodism. My grandpa, he was raised Methodist, and he was a construction worker all of his life, and he was the most kind, gentle, compassionate man I've ever known in my life. And whether he did it because my grandma and grandpa weren't well off, or because he was practicing John Wesley's teachings, it never failed. We'd go to church with him on Sundays, and he'd come home and put his feet up to read the paper waiting for dinner, and on the bottom of his sole would be a big thing of duct tape. And I go, Grandpa, there's duct tape on your shoes. Yeah, I know. Grandpa, I know. It'd be hiding a hole he'd worn in his dress shoes. And he would just layer duct tape on there and continue to wear them. So part of saving everything you can involves not spending money you don't have to spend. Recycle, reuse, reduce. Make do with what you have. Be content with what you have. You all know you go out and buy a brand new car, you lose, 20% of its value as soon as you drive it off the lot? Buy something a couple years old and save yourself that money. So there's make all you can, save all you can, and then he said, give all you can. What? After I've worked so hard and I've saved so hard, you want me to give it away? He even said, if you have children that you think will squander their inheritance, don't give it to them. The first people you help with this money is your fellow Christians so they can do more good for the common good in society. Be careful how you give it away. Make sure it's used for the best purpose possible. Give away the clothes that don't fit anymore. Give away rolls of duct tape for people's shoes. But the whole point of making as much as we can and saving as much as we can is so that we can give as much as we can. And again, that's a hard thing for us in Western civilization. So I don't expect myself or anyone here to go sell what you don't need and come give it to the church. But the church is more than just a ministry. Let me rephrase that. It's more than a business, it's a ministry, but there has to be some business applications in order for the church to survive. And whether you're here or not, the expenses are the same every month. So to keep you from having to sell everything you own in order to donate to the good of the community, another list of things you can try. Consider having your bank pay your tithe or offerings automatically. It's really simple. You call them, you talk to them, and then you hit a little button on your phone or your computer and it sends it when it's supposed to. Sometimes you don't even have to hit the button. You can set it up to be automatic. When you're absent or on vacation, we still have the same amount of expenses, so try to remember to make up your giving for the Sundays that you're not here. If you ever looked at our financial statements, our giving is like, if you're in business like that, you'd be out of business, right? What we need is this. Consider becoming a regular giver. We only have 58 regular givers out of all the people who are members of this church. It's 356 people. 58 of us are regular givers. Consider giving just a little bit more. This is where the whole fixed income comes in, right? If all 58 regular givers gave $2 more a week, we'd have $6,000 more a year to spend on ministry. Because all of our other stuff is pretty static. We know what the utilities cost, we know what salaries cost, we know what buildings cost. But the smallest budget items in our budget are worship, missions, outreach, education, because we don't have enough money. If we were to give $3, if each of the 58 givers were to give $3 more a month, that would be over $9,000 a year. And if each of us gave $5 more a week, it'd be over $15,000 a year. And I started today adding $5 to mine in order to set an example, and I hope you'll follow. Because the point of this isn't really about money or a tithe or how much we give. It's about the opening line of this passage. They were of one heart and one soul. The faithful community of Jerusalem believed so much in the common good and helping their fellow human beings that they sold what they didn't need and gave it for the common good. That's what this is about. It's not about the dollar amounts as much as it is about having one heart and one soul as North Vernon First United Methodist Church. About caring about the common good enough that we're willing to give until maybe it hurts just a little in order to do good in this church and in this community. And if COVID ever ends, we're going at it. We're going to be involved and we're going to make a difference. The train's leaving the station and you don't want to get run over. And that's pretty much the gospel lesson for today. Normally we would take up an offering, but you all know why we're not, so I'd encourage you to drop your envelopes in the basket out front. You can bring them by the office and drop them in the basket there. And if you're watching online and you'd like to contribute to the financial well-being of this church, you can mail your offering to 240 West Poplar Street, North Vernon, 47265. And with that, I will ask you to stand and join us for our closing hymn.
to serve as you would serve, to be what you would be. Your love compels me, Lord, to give as you would give, to speak as you would speak, to live as you would live. Your love compels me, Lord, to see as you would see, to serve as you would serve, to be what you would be. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship our kindred minds is like to that above. Before our Father's throne, we pour our ardent prayers, our fears, our hopes, our games, our won, our comforts and our cares. We share each other's woes, our mutual burdens bear, and often for each other flows the sympathizing tear. When we asunder part, it gives us inward pain, but we shall still be joined in heart and hope to meet again. Lord, give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a brand new start. Create in me a love that's real. Give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a brand new start. Create in me a love that's real. Give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a brand new start. Create in me a love that's real. Give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a willing heart. Lord, give me a brand new start. Create